Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Beacon Way podcast. Today, we're going to be digging into UX, UI design and your brand, how they work together, and why UX, UI is truly the magic sauce to making your website easy to find and a dynamic tool for your business. So, if you're a small business owner, you already know that your website is more than a digital business card. Or if you don't, you really should. It's you. Your website should be your 24/7 salesperson. Your website's your first impression. And let's be honest, sometimes your only shot at winning over a customer. But what really separates a forgettable website from one that turns visitors into a loyal fan is a great question. And the answer? A killer combination of user experience and user interface. So UX, UI design. UX stands for user experience and UI stands for user interface. In today's podcast, we're going to break down exactly why UX, UI is essential for your business and your business growth. And we're going to talk about how it shapes your brand messaging and what happens when it gets a little off. We're also going to spotlight some real world examples from mental health, home services, and tourism websites, including a few from our own Beacon Media and Marketing's portfolio. So grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and let's get into it. So, what is UX UI anyway? User experience, or UX, is all about how people feel when they interact with your website. Is it easy to find what they need? Does it actually make sense? Is it enjoyable being on your website? UX covers everything from navigation and content structure to speed and accessibility. It's the science and art of making your website logical, efficient, and most importantly, user-friendly. So now let's talk user interface. UI is the visual and interactive layer to your website. These are the colors, the typography, the buttons, the icons, the layout. UI is what your users see and touch. It's about making your site beautiful, on brand, and intuitive so visitors know exactly where to click next. In short, UX is the journey, UI is the scenery. Both are essential for a memorable trip. So, why is good UX UI critical for business growth? Well, the numbers don't lie. Good UX can increase your website's conversion rate by up to 200%. A better UX design, up to 400%. Essentially, every dollar you invest in UX brings in an ROI of between $2 and $100. Another statistic for you, 74% of visitors will return to a website if it has a good mobile UX or good mobile experience. 67% of mobile visitors will enjoy the user experience and are likely to make a purchase. So when they like the experience, 67% of them are likely to make a purchase. Slow websites kill conversions. Let me say that again. Slow websites kill conversions. That's somebody converting from a lead to actually somebody who becomes a client. So a decreasing page load speed if you decrease your page load speed from 8 seconds to 2 seconds, that can boost your conversion rates by up to 74%. Another interesting piece is that retention rates can be up to 400% higher for companies that focus on UX for their website. And when you have good UX and good brand messaging, that outperforms just performance messaging by 80% of the time. So that's why it is so important to have consistent brand experiences, which are driven by UX and UI. Okay, so that's a lot of statistics. That's a lot of data. But what does that really mean for you? At the shortest point, it really means more leads, which should translate into more sales. So when you optimize UX UI, that means more people are going to stick around on your website, engage, and convert. It also means lower costs for you, lower marketing costs. Better UX means fewer support calls because people can find the answers they're looking for on your website. It means less cart abandonment because people aren't getting frustrated. They are able to move through the process smoothly without friction. The key here is to remove barriers, and that leads to happier customers, which potentially rolls into more referrals down the road and more repeat business. Another reason why this matters to you is competitive edge. So many of our marketplaces are crowded. There's a lot of people out there competing for internet time, for screen time. So when your UX UI is on point and you have a seamless on brand experience, that sets you apart. More often than not, people are probably checking out multiple websites or even the same product on multiple websites. They've usually gotten a list these days from ChatGPT on who are the best companies to explore about whatever it is they're looking to buy. So when people are bouncing around from site to site, when your site has a good UX UI experience, that is going to set you apart. It also helps with brand loyalty. When your website feels authentic and easy to navigate, people are more likely to trust you. And trust, as we all know, is one of the foundations of loyalty, of brand loyalty. Okay, so now let's get into some of the other side of UX UI. What happens when it goes wrong? What happens when you don't have good UX UI on your website? Well, I hate to say this, but to be honest, bad UX UI can torpedo your entire business, especially if your website is a major part of your sales funnel, which it really should be. So let's talk some more statistics, some more interesting information. When we're talking a bad UX UI design, cart abandonment, for those of you who are selling things online, that skyrockets. So about 70% of online shopping carts are abandoned, and that's often due to confusing or frustrating user experience. A bad UX UI can also lead to lower engagement. If your site is hard to navigate or slow, users bounce and they don't usually come back. They tend to stay with somebody who has a good user experience for them to walk through. Bad UX UI can actually damage your brand credibility. Bad experiences get shared, unfortunately, more often than good. So one negative review can reach 15 potential customers. So it's really important that your UX UI on your website is spot on. Now, this statistic is very interesting. Now, this is globally, which is part of why it's such a big number. But globally, businesses lose over $1.4 trillion every year due to bad UX. Now, granted, that's global, but that's a pretty scary statistic. It really, really matters. It also really affects your customer acquisition costs. So poor UX, UI increases your costs to win new customers, and that often hurts your SEO ranking as well. Let's talk some real world examples. Here's an interesting one. Snapchat's infamous interface redesign led to a $1.3 billion drop in their market value after users revolted against the confusing new look. They overhauled it and it wasn't an improvement. It was actually more complex, harder to navigate. Things that users had gotten used to being in certain places were all around in other places. And literally users revolted. And that had a dramatic impact on a company even as big as Snapchat. So you might ask, okay, This is all good information, but how does UI build authenticity and connection for my clients? All right, let's go back and talk about websites again. Your website is your digital handshake. That's again that first impression. That's, hi, I'm so and so. It's great to meet you. In a digital age, that is your handshake. So if it's clunky, outdated, or off brand, people are going to notice and they're going to judge. But when your UI is thoughtfully done, it does more than just work. It communicates your values, it builds trust, and creates a sense of belonging. Now, how does UI drive brand messaging? Brand messaging is important. It's all part of that consistency and that ability to build trust with potential clients. So when UI is on point, it is a vehicle that continues your brand messaging to the community. And when it's consistent, that's important. Every button, every color, and every word can reinforce who you are and what you stand for, or it can actually really degrade it. So it's also important because consistent UI that aligns with your brand messaging also builds trust. That authentic on-brand design signals reliability and transparency, which is really important for industries like mental health, home services, and tourism. A website that feels right is important. That might seem like a touchy-feely thing, but it matters. That emotional connection is huge. When a website feels right, it invites users to connect with your story, not just your services. People hate to be sold, but they love to buy. And who do they want to buy from? They want to buy from people they know, like, and trust. And being able for your website to communicate your story in a way that's consistent and feels right to your target audience really helps people to connect. Differentiation is another really important thing with good on point UI. That authentic design really helps you stand out in that sea of sameness. So let's talk about then some other really important pieces as far as it's really important to have. Okay, let's talk about how UX and UI and brand messaging really can work together. Let's talk some practical tips. So your brand isn't just your logo or a tagline. Your brand is the sum of every person's interaction with you and your business. So you have your logo, which is your visual piece, but your brand is the whole thing. And so when your UX and your UI and your brand messaging are in sync, that's when the magic happens. That's when the magic sauce really comes into play. Because again, we were just talking about trust. Trust is built. It's not just given away. And it's harder and harder to earn trust in our digital age. So consistent visuals and tone really can reassure visitors that they're in the right place. They actually found the site for the company they're looking for. You can also grow recognition through that symbiotic relationship between brand messaging and UX UI. So the unique design elements, the colors, the fonts, the messaging, all of these come together to make your brand memorable. All of this can actually increase your sales. When you have a seamless on-brand experience, it reduces friction and barriers and boosts conversions. Again, you want to look through your website. What are the barriers that I can remove to make it easier for my clients to make a buying decision? When your brand messaging and UX UI are in sync, the loyalty deepens because authentic user-centered design creates emotional connection that lasts on a deeper level. So here's a quick pro tip for you. Take a look at your website. Every touch point, from your homepage to your contact form, should reinforce your brand's promise and its personality. So it's really helpful to audit your website now and again and see, is it still consistent? Because websites tend to grow on their own and take on a life of their own. We add a page here, we add a page there, we add a new service, and next thing you know, we got this Frankenstein monster. And so it's really important to you to do that UX UI audit on a regular basis and really compare it to your brand. And is it still on point? Or are there some, ways that we can tweak it? So let's talk some best practices. How can you nail UX UI for your small business? First thing you want to start with, whether it's your agency that you've hired doing this, or you're doing it yourself, or your marketing team's doing it, the first place to start is user research. You have to understand your audience's needs, pain points, and motivation. Next, you need to prioritize accessibility. Make sure your site is usable for everyone, regardless of ability. There's a lot of good information out there from the ADA about user accessibility and different ways to optimize it for different abilities. Keep it simple. I could say this probably over and over and over for an hour, and it wouldn't be enough. It is so important to keep your website as clean and simple as possible. You want clear navigation, you want readable fonts, and intuitive layouts. They win every time. It is more about simply and cleanly communicating your message with clarity than it is about all the bells and whistles and all the fun stuff. Those tend to lag and make your website slow down anyway. So first, make sure that your website is simple, it's clear, and it's easy to navigate. We've kind of touched on this one before, but use on-brand visuals. The colors, the images, the icons, they should all reflect your brand values and your story. Next, test and iterate. Usability testing really uncovers friction points so that you can fix them before they hurt your business. So you can do user testing. There's a lot of programs out there that can do certain amounts of user testing for you, or have a potential client go through your website and they're going to uncover the friction points. And those are really good things to mess with and to fix. Another important part, you want to highlight your calls to action. Make it obvious what you want your users to do next. Don't make them guess. And it's going to feel so obvious, it's almost idiotic to you. But that's because you know your company and you know your products and you know your services. It's second nature to you, but it's not going to be like that for your potential customer coming in. So make it more than obvious. Don't make them guess. And that can be sometimes a really hard thing to do, which is why the user testing can be really, really important. Somebody who's not familiar with your website going through it is going to look at it with a completely different pair of eyes than what you are. Okay, social proof is my last point here in this area. Reviews, testimonials, and case studies build credibility and trust. These are really important to have on your website and have them in a front and center place and have them repeated often throughout your site. All right, so let's bottom line it. When you invest in UX UI, that is investing in your business growth. Great UX UI is not a nice to have option anymore. Those days have come and gone. Now it's a business necessity. UX UI is how you turn website visitors into leads and leads into customers and customers into raving fans. It's how you communicate your brand's values, build trust, and stand out in a crowded market. If your website isn't delivering the results you want, it's probably time to do a UX UI audit or have an independent company do a UX UI audit on your website and see what opportunities there are to really overhaul your website or tweak it and improve it and really take your brand and your user experience to a whole nother level and see what it does for your customers. All right, so that is my summary today on UX UI and why it's important and why it's a absolutely must have in today's digital marketing world. So if you want to see the whole article and see some of the case studies and some of the visuals there, we'll make sure we include a link to the article in the comments below. And if you're interested in talking to us more about just how to get started and what to do next, honestly, we would love to have a chat because honestly, we geek out on marketing all the time, and the opportunity to geek out with somebody else on the stuff we love, the stuff we know makes a difference every day in small businesses is our happy place. So thank you again for listening today to the Beacon Way podcast. And I hope you come back and join us again for our next episode.